So, welcome everyone to the Pound Town podcast. I'm Ivan, and here's your co-host Nick.
Good to be back. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Today we're gonna go over a few topics. The first one is gonna be about the MVP and all the talk about it. So I'll just kind of get into it. There's been a lot of talk about Brock Purdy being MVP, and I think it's pretty insane actually that he's even considered an MVP. Talks. I mean, you probably heard this before, but he's not the most valuable player in the league. He's not the most valuable player on his team. He's probably like the fifth most valuable player because you have McCaffrey, you have Debo Samuel, Ayuk, Trent Williams, and then you can even I'm forgetting someone else. There's Fred Warner. Yeah, so they're pretty stacked all
And
around.
did you say Kittle? I don't even know if you
Oh
said
yeah,
Kittle.
there's Kittle, who's probably the most complete tight end in the league. This guy is surrounded.
Don't forget his coach.
Yeah, then he has a top three coach, if not the best coach, if not the best play caller in the league. So, we can make this like I can go on for an hour about this, but the quarterback play is down this year, and the Eagles were one of the best teams, or they're one of the best teams. So Brock Purdy beating them, it kind of gave a lot of hype to him. And the thing with me and Brock Purdy, look, he's a good quarterback and he does his job, but there's a fine line between doing your job and being elite. And he's just not elite. He's not like a gunslinger. He's not super fast. He doesn't elevate his team. We saw when Trent Williams and Debo were out for the middle of the season, those 3 games against the
They were
Browns.
bad.
Yeah, they were rough, and in those 3 games, he had a combined 5 turnovers. So yeah, he's not some guy that's just gonna elevate your team. And
Yeah, I think I had read somewhere that it was that somewhere in that little stretch where they didn't have Debo that like at this point in his career, 4 out of the 6 interceptions were in games where Debo wasn't in the lineup. So it's
no, yeah, like he's in a very good system and he does it well. I don't think anyone's arguing like, oh, he's a horrible quarterback. He's good, but he's not MVP. There was a tweet. I don't know if you saw it. You probably didn't see it, but someone said if Brock Purdy wins MVP this year, that they'll kill themselves because of how embarrassing it is for our league. Um, yeah, he doesn't deserve it. I hope after like a few weeks, like this kind of dies down. I think it will die down. It's just the hype because oh my god, he beat the Eagles. He threw 4 touchdowns. He threw 300 yards. Um, and a lot of that is because, and you'll probably talk about this too, is all the screens he does, all the misdirection, all the drag routes. He's not Mahomes throwing it down the field. He's not Josh Allen throwing it down the field. Like when Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers won their MVPs, they were leading the league in passing yards. They were at least top 3 in touchdowns, and they had the best record in the league, if not like a top 2 record. The Niners don't have the best record. The Eagles have a better record, and they're tied. They're tied for like second best. But I don't think they're getting the 1 seed. Uh, for me personally, okay, so yeah, that's just my take on Brock Purdy.
yeah.
But personally, I think Tyreek deserves the MVP. I don't think any quarterback really deserves it. Um,
Yeah,
that's
well, give your like in no order, but give like your top three.
okay. So,
Tyreek.
yeah, Tyreek Hill, and then I would actually say Christian McCaffrey, and then I would say Jalen Hurts because he's probably gonna end up with the best record in the league. And yeah, he did lose to the 49ers, but um, that's just one hiccup. For Dak Prescott, you can name like a few other hiccups, and losing to the 49ers like the way he did was really horrible. So, and I
Lost
think
every important game he's had.
no, yeah, he barely beat the Seahawks by like 5 or 6 points, and that wasn't a good win. And Geno Smith actually outplayed him if you look at the
Right.
stats. So Dak definitely doesn't deserve it. So yeah, those are my top 3 guys. So yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I think. Well, I'll just briefly say that. Yeah, I agree. Purdy, I would not make him the MVP. I think there's two issues with what the social media and what the public are doing to the sport in general. And that's this idea that if a team is doing good, it's the quarterbacks. You know, we give all the credit to the quarterback. And if the team's doing bad, we put all the blame on the quarterback. Like you're blaming one guy on a 53-man roster.
Mm-hmm.
You know how many coaches there are on football teams. It's absurd. So, like you mentioned, if one player is not even the most valuable player on his team, how is he the most valuable player in the league?
No.
So I take look at everything that's around Purdy. That's why he's doing as well as he is.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree. That game against the Browns, did he even have 100 yards passing? Or if he did, like by the fourth quarter, he didn't, and then maybe on that last drive he got over 100. But come on,
that game too. I want to mention against the Browns, he was going against PJ Walker, who was an XFL quarterback. How do you lose to an XFL quarterback? I don't care.
That's exactly what I said.
I don't care who's injured on your team. Like, I mean, he had enough weapons to do it, and he lost to them. And they were like 5-point favorites to win that game. It wasn't like supposed to be a close game. He choked.
The money line was outrageous.
Yeah, well, they were like minus 500. So yeah, keep going. My bad.
It might have been worse because I remember in some of the pretend bets I'm doing with one of my cousins, we're keeping track of how we're doing. I lost a lot of money on that game because I was like, oh, Niners versus PJ Walker.
No Deshaun, no Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
How did they lose?
That was a tough one. So, we'll see what happens, in the playoffs because unfortunately we were robbed of that last year.
Yeah, we were.
So we'll see how that boils down because those moments can always get to somebody. But yeah, I think we've got to do a better job as viewers. Like it's getting embarrassing. Like I don't know if America is watching every football game drunk, but we can't just say when a team does good, it's all the quarterback. When a team does bad, it's the quarterback. Like, is Mahomes having a down year? If you play popular vote and you just look at what the fans think and what the stats say, yeah, he's having a down year. Watch the game. Watch the fact that the Chiefs lead the league in drops, that their receivers can't get open, that Mahomes is doing everything he can, and there's no support around him. So, we've got to be a more critical consumer and viewer of our product. I agree with you. None of my top 3 candidates for MVP are quarterbacks. I do not see a team right now who's high in the standings, and it's far and away the quarterback. I see the Dolphins. I agree with you, Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
This is a guy in every game but 2 this year has had a touchdown. That's insane. He's the biggest playmaking threat in the NFL still. He's 300 yards above the next closest receiver. So he's number 1, or not necessarily number 1, but he's in my top 3. I've got Christian McCaffrey as well in my top 3.
Yeah.
This is another guy who he's had a touchdown in like all these games with the 49ers. It's insane. So I think what he's able to do both as a dump off option for Purdy, but then also running the ball, so then that Purdy can get play action going and he can get other passes going. It's far and away what Christian McCaffrey's done to this 49ers offense.
He's played in 12 games this season, McCaffrey, and he scored in every single one except one, and it was the Jaguars game. The other one, he's had a rushing or a receiving.
Yeah.
So
there
he's
you
amazing.
Go. Like these are most valuable players.
Yeah.
Because I always said that when McCaffrey was on the Panthers, I was like, if the 49ers had a running back that could play every game, because it was Mostert, then it was Jeff Wilson, Matt Breida. They had a committee.
Trey Sermon.
Yeah, so, they had so many running backs, I lost track. If they could get someone like a McCaffrey to come in, receiving, running, he'll be a perfect fit for this offense. And sure enough, give the 49ers front office credit for finally doing something right and bringing him in. Best move they made. I think we should go back to one of those 2 for MVP. My third and wild card candidate for the MVP trophy is Deron Bland for the Dallas Cowboys. A little bit of Fresno State bias, but also a little bit what he's been able to do this year as a corner and the effect he's been able to have as a corner. With, what is it, 5 pick sixes?
At least, I think 6, around there, 6.
It's somewhere in there. It's
Yeah.
the most in a single season ever. He's got more touchdowns than some of the best skill players in this game.
Yeah.
As a corner. So, I think too, when Dallas lost Diggs, there was like a crushing blow in a lot of the Cowboys, fans, and like, oh, we lost Diggs, and the way that Deron Bland has stepped up and filled that void has been amazing, and I think it's one of the reasons they're in contention right now. Because I agree, it's their defense. I'd give more credit to their defense than anything that they're doing on the offensive side of the ball.
No, yeah,
Bland.
Bland.
Those are my 3, and I agree with you. Purdy, I think people need to pump the brakes, and we'll get to the Philly Niners game.
Yeah, we'll get
more
to that
later, and and we can explain why just because they won that game again, why we need to pump the brakes. But yeah, Purdy for MVP. People need to calm down, and we need to remember that just because a team's doing good or a team's doing bad, it's not the quarterback's fault.
No, yeah, that was well said. One thing I was gonna add too. Damn, I kind of forgot it. Damn, what was I gonna say? Yeah, just with Purdy, like it's a lot of Niner fans hyping him up, right? And it just they're putting a target on this guy's back. He's one of the most humble guys in the league. He always shouts out his teammates, and his teammates love him. But it's just the fans, and it's the Niner fans that are, oh, he's better than Jalen Hurts. He's a top 2. He's a top 10 quarterback. He's a top 5 quarterback. And
the comparisons to Brady and Joe Montana is what upset me the most.
And a lot of quarterbacks are injured this year, so like they're kind of right. Like if you take out because everyone's injured, but if everyone's healthy in the league, this dude is not top 10. He's probably not top 15 in the league. And if you switch him, if you take him out and put Will Levis, if you put a Kirk Cousins, a Derek Carr, a top 20 guy where Purdy's at, the team's not going to miss a beat. They're still going to be good.
Yeah.
Because his job doesn't require him to extend plays and do it and do the most, So, yeah, they're just putting. I think it's putting a target on him. Yeah, go ahead.
Overall, though, in general, like if you look at the stats, the issue is, he's I think he's got the number 1 quarterback rating, and it's like things like that. He might even have the number 1 QBR. So, but that's what I'm saying. Like just because you've got that rating, that stat.
No, yeah.
That doesn't mean that they're the best quarterback in the league. Like, if you want to make the statement statistically, he's having the best season, I agree. Because we can't argue that. If he's leading in quarterback rating or he's leading in QBR.
For me, go ahead. Let me let you finish.
But if you're just going to make the claim he's the best on-field quarterback we have in the NFL right now, think about what you're saying and really think about that and watch the game a little bit closer. And watch some other games, 49ers fans, who are making these claims, and I think they may take back their statement.
No, yeah. If you would have told me Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott in like 3 quarters through the season are leading the MVP talks, I would have told you you're crazy. But here we are, and somehow it's happening. So, yeah,
Dak Prescott for MVP is a scary threat because we know the voters like quarterbacks, and we know America's team. He's cut back the interceptions. Only has 6 this year.
Yeah, I give him credit for that, but he shouldn't because he's played shitty teams.
He's lost every big game he's had.
Yeah, he only beat the Seahawks, and he barely did it. He almost choked that. If the Seahawks offensive line wasn't that bad on that final drive, I don't know if you saw it, but they just gave it.
I know they're bad.
They gave at the end of the game, it was 4th and 7 or something, and the Cowboys got a free rusher at Geno, and he just had to throw it, and that was it. So Geno, he probably could have came down and won that game, but yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, well, let's, if I may, the Cowboys' schedule here. They've beaten the Giants 2 times, the Jets, the Patriots, the Chargers, the Rams without Kyren Williams, who's a better running back than he's getting credit for, and the Panthers and the Commanders and the Seahawks. Like,
They're all
really?
trash. Yeah,
You're trash. You lose to the Eagles, you lose to the Niners, and you lost to the Cardinals.
that was
You know,
embarrassing. That was that was a horrible loss. And then they actually have a few tougher games upcoming. I think they play the Lions. They play the Eagles.
yes, the Eagles again, Bills, Dolphins, Lions, and
See,
then they get to close with the Commanders.
you know what? If Dak can kind of like close out those, if he can win at least 3 or 4 of those games, I can see why he might
If
win
they win
MVP.
the East,
Yeah.
if they win the East, that's a different conversation. Because then he'll have to have won
Oh
a
yeah.
majority of those games, and then okay, Dak, maybe.
Yeah. Then I'd see it, but right now he doesn't deserve it.
No, they need to win a big game. They need
Yeah.
to beat a team with a winning record.
Exactly.
Like, for Pete's sake.
I mean, Dak's gonna have his chance again. He almost beat the Eagles, but like he just ran out of time at the end. But I still don't see it. But we'll see. I mean, the Eagles
The
defense.
Cowboys seem to have a problem with running out of time at the end.
No, yeah, it's always that, and then there's talks about firing McCarthy, and putting Dan Quinn. So we'll see what happens with that. But moving on to our next topic. Oh shoot, I messed that up. Let me see. To Niners. All right, so yeah, moving on to our next topic. It was the big game. Probably a lot of people were saying game of the year when they saw this. It was the Eagles and Niners game, and Eagles got embarrassed, and they look like chumps, because a lot of fans. So leading up, the storyline. Oh, like you would have lost even with Brock Purdy healthy,
Yeah.
and now it's looking like they would have won if Brock Purdy was healthy in that playoff game. And I'm like naturally a Niners hater because I like the Raiders, so I wanted the Eagles to like kind of give it to them and their fans, because I don't like the Niners. I think they're frauds, but that's just me. But yeah, they lost in a horrible fashion. They started off the game kind of good. I don't know if you saw the stats, but in the first quarter, Brock Purdy didn't complete a pass. He was 0 for 4 in the first quarter.
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay, they're kind of making him uncomfortable. But the second quarter and after the first quarter, Brock Purdy just kind of figured it out. And the Eagles, like, I don't know what it is with the Eagles, because they have the talent on paper. They have the right guys.
Not clicking.
Yeah, they're just not. They don't care. Like, it's like they're not trying. Like, I don't want to like look. It really looks like they're not trying. They're not giving it their 100%. I didn't see the best. They just didn't come to play that game, and I think they're doing this because they've kind of played like they haven't had a rest for a while. I think they played some rough teams in the past weeks, and then they play one of the better teams in the league. So, I kind of saw this coming, but they're at home. Everyone knows the hype to this, and they just lost like really badly. So this was rough on them. I was expecting a better game. Jalen Hurts actually got hurt in the middle of the game. I don't know if you saw that, but he came back and yeah. So are the Eagles in trouble? I don't think they're in trouble, but they definitely next time they play the Niners in the playoffs, because I think they'll meet again, obviously, in the playoffs. They're gonna have to bring it this time. I'd rather them get the shit kicked out of them now and kind of know what it's like, and then the playoffs, like, oh, okay, like this is what they're gonna come at us with, and we got to be ready this time. So that's how it usually is in the playoffs. Like, oh, they lost to them in the regular season, so I'm gonna bet on the Niners because they got their number, and then the other team wins. So I could see that's like a classic example of stuff
Right.
of like playoff games. So yeah, what did you think of this game, and do you think the Eagles are in trouble?
So no, I don't think the Eagles are in trouble, and this game is interesting for a couple reasons. Number one, when I was asked, "What do I think's going to happen?" by some people who wanted my opinion, I told them, I said, I think the Niners are going to win this game, but I think the Eagles get back at them in the playoffs.
No, yeah.
That's exactly what you just said was what I thought, because people, whether or not you know my stance on Shanahan, I'll say it again, not a big fan. I think he's bad in the big moments, in the big games. I've got the proof, see Super Bowl 51, see the Super Bowl Niners Chiefs, the
Yeah.
NFC Championship the year after that, where they're blowing these fourth quarter leads. So also,
Yeah.
I think he's like 0-29 when trailing by 5 or more points going into the
Damn.
fourth quarter
I
or
didn't know
something.
that. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's not good. So anyway, yeah, it's not the Eagles' world is not falling apart. This is how good the 49ers are when they're motivated.
Yeah, they were
And I
more
say they're
motivated.
motivated because how long, their opportunity to play in the Super Bowl was taken from them. They didn't even have a legit quarterback under center in the NFC Championship game. And you don't think that's stayed in their mind, for all these months it's built up. And then when they saw the schedule release and they said, we get to play the Philadelphia Eagles in a rematch of the NFC Championship, and we're going to be able to show them that we could have beaten them.
We could have won.
We had Purdy.
Yeah.
They were so motivated to play this game to prove that point that I think the Eagles, like you said, if they weren't giving it the same energy, what were the Eagles playing for? They're in first place. They've got their division as it stands. They were defending NFC champs. Do they need to risk life and limb to lose this game? No. So, and if I'm not mistaken, it was in San Francisco.
The game was in Philadelphia.
Oh, it was in Philadelphia?
Yeah, that's the crazy thing. Like they were literally going to them. You got all the fans, you got all the hype. Like if I was an Eagles fan and I went to that game, I would be like, what just happened? Like, no way this happened. How did they lose like this? Like if they were gonna lose like by 3, by a field goal at the end, by a flag, by a bad call, okay, that's fine. But like they got their asses kicked. Like they were like the Cowboys did. Like they were some random team. Like come on, you're the Eagles. You're the goddamn Eagles, and they actually have like a good team. So,
but that's the point that I would drive in is, are they matching the intensity? And the reason I talk about this a lot is because in college football, you'll see teams who maybe they're ranked or maybe they're at the top of their conference, and they'll lose to some team where it's like they're terrible. How did this happen? If you walk into the game thinking, well, we've got this, or whatever, it's a nonchalant approach, and the other team is saying, this is our season. This is the win we need to have. They're putting all of it on this. It's hard. You got to match that. Everybody in the NFL is talented. And if you don't come in with the same motivation, you're going to lose. And, the game was close in the first half. It wasn't a blowout, but the Niners come out second half, 4 touchdowns in a row, and that sealed it. And, again, I don't think it's anything Purdy did spectacularly. You mentioned he didn't complete a pass in the first quarter.
Yeah, he didn't.
And there was no pressure for the 49ers. Actually, in fact, it's probably a good thing that it was on the road. Everything was against them, which increased what they thought they had to put on the field even more. Because, we're going on the road. We're playing the defending champs. We want to beat them bad. And I think their defense also is becoming something to look out for, especially when they added Chase Young. That's just dangerous. They added Chase Young for practically nothing to a defense that was already pretty legit. They're going to be a tough one to stop. Christian McCaffrey had another good game, another touchdown. And, I think that's what happens when you have one team that had everything to prove and one team that had nothing to, I mean, really, they didn't have anything to play for unless it was pride and backing up.
They definitely played for pride. And I just looking at this game before it all happened, you look at the Eagles, they have a better offensive line, better quarterback, better receivers. Their front four is better. I would take their front four over the 49ers. They have better corners. The Niners corners always get burnt. Secondary, they got Kyron Bird. They just got Kyron Bird. But they have Blankenship, who's not bad. So, it's like I feel like they had the players to win this game. Like you said, they didn't match intensity, and they look like chumps. They look like frauds, like a little bit, because it looks like if Purdy would have played, they would have lost, and they're supposed to prove that notion. Like they could have shut up so many Niner fans. and they're really annoying because I know a few. Like I'm pretty sure you know a few, but yeah, it's just
Yeah.
I can't believe they lost like that.
I
That's
didn't
crazy,
realize because growing up I was a 49ers fan. I didn't realize until I wasn't a 49ers fan how obnoxious 49ers fans can be when they're winning.
dude.
Um,
Well, one of my friends actually said that AJ that Ward was locking up AJ Brown and he was on straps and AJ Brown had 100 yards and Devontae Smith he said the same thing for him and Devontae had 100 yards and a touchdown. So
yeah.
I think their corners are definitely their weak spot and that's what's gonna mess them on. That's what's gonna screw them over later in the playoffs when they can't cover anyone. Because I don't know if you've like really paid attention to how much yards their corners give up but it's a lot. They can't cover anyone. Ward is a horrible corner, and Niner fans will tell you that he's a good corner. He can lock up people, and
The defense, their defense relies on their ability to stop the run
yeah,
and apply pressure.
yeah,
And if they can't get the pressure before they give up, they're not going to shut a team out, but they can do damage to you. Like watching that Seahawks game, the first half on Thanksgiving,
no, yeah,
that was brutal. The Seahawks couldn't move the ball. So that defense can play against teams that want to try to establish the run and can't block well, then they're going to hurt you. But yeah, if you can take advantage of their corners,
yeah. I think they really should have addressed their cornerback issue, but instead they got Chase Young.
well, I think one of the Niners safeties like that the guy
Hufanga.
from USC, yeah, isn't he hurt?
Yeah, he's hurt.
Yeah.
So
That's a big loss for them.
yeah, that is. So I think their secondary is gonna screw them. That's a huge weakness for them on offense. I mean, they got the run game, they got the passing game. You got Kyle Shanahan, so they're a good team. But yeah, just crazy how the Eagles lost. I can't believe it. We'll see if the Niners are able to get that first seed. I think the Eagles, the way they play, like they start trying for like a quarter in games, and then they somehow win it. Like the Bills game, they somehow won the Bills game. There's a few other games where they won it like last second, like last 5 minutes of the game. And they shouldn't be wanting to win football games like that. They should want to win like smoothly, comfortably, and clean up their defense because they have too much talent to be barely winning.
Yeah. So, and that's the other point I wanted to make about this game with the Eagles. So, first we've got the psychology behind it. What's our motivation? Advantage 49ers. That was clear. Now, you look at, let's not be so surprised about the Eagles. Now, they were 10-1. Their scoring differential currently at 10-2 is plus 41. One, two, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams have a better scoring differential than the Eagles, and they had the best record in the NFL. So that reveals something, which is the fact that their defense is not that good. If we look at that, they're ranked the 24th scoring and the 22nd yardage defense.
I think they give up the most. No, it's them or the Chargers that give up the most passing yards per game. They're like top 3 worst teams defending the pass.
They are the 29th yard for passing and 31st for touchdowns. Yeah, it's not good.
And how is that possible when they have corners like Darius Slay? Is Darius Slay washed? Because I remember a time when Darius Slay could lock up Justin Jefferson and keep him to almost nothing. And now Ayuk is burning him. Now he's getting burnt by Gabe Davis. He's getting burnt by everyone. He can't cover anyone. Like I don't know what's going on.
The other thing could be that teams are not really running the ball against them. They're throwing the ball. They have the most passing attempts against them, which could mean that maybe those corners are getting tired.
Maybe
you try it so many times, eventually it's gonna hit home, and so. And again, maybe that reveals it was 14-6 in the first half, and then the Niners come out second half, touchdown, 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 touchdown. Maybe there is some fatigue. But the Eagles have one of the worst pass defenses, one of the best run defenses, and it probably has something to do with the attempts, the run attempts and the pass attempts. Teams are passing it against them, and maybe they're passing against them because the corners can't handle it. So who knows, but the other thing I'd like to do is look at their wins. Patriots by 5 points. That's not impressive. They've beaten the Vikings, the Buccaneers, the Commanders. The Commanders, they beat them by 3 points. They beat the Rams. They lost to the Jets. They beat the Dolphins. That was an impressive win.
Yeah, that one
They
was.
beat the Commanders by 7, 38-31. Beat the Cowboys by 5. Beat the Chiefs by 4. Beat the Bills, who have been struggling, by 3. I mean, they're letting every team stay in these games, and they're relying on these late game heroics
I know.
by Jalen Hurts.
They should have lost that Chiefs game, but that one receiver dropped the pass at the end by Mahomes. I don't know if you remember it.
And not only that one, but then the Bills game was coming down to the end.
No, yeah.
And they got lucky. So, I think they were due for a game like this. It'll probably make them stronger in the end, and that's why I say look out in the playoffs, because if they have good coaching, and that's the other thing, they lost both their coordinators. So what effect that has had on the Eagles. But if they have good coaching, they'll be able to take this game, learn from it, because they were doing something right in the first half. So we'll see. But I think, again, like you've been saying, I think the 49ers fans, I think the rest of the people, they need to pump the brakes. It was one game, and let's not overreact to the result from one game.
No, yeah, you just pointed out, like how I mentioned, they played a few, like, kind of what's the word? A few heavy hitters, recently, and
yeah.
So I kind of,
Cowboys, Chiefs,
yeah, like
Bills.
If Jalen Hurts would have beat all of them, like even the Niners, he definitely would have locked up MVP. I don't think there would have been a question if he would have took out Mahomes, Josh Allen, and then Dak. But I mean, it's Dak, but the Cowboys defense is good, and then the 49ers, that would have been crazy. I think
his defense is pretty good too.
No, yeah, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
So
probably one of the better defenses Mahomes has had since he's been in Kansas City.
I think it's his best. I think.
Yeah, it might be.
Yeah. So yeah, let me just change the topic. Do you have anything else to add?
No.
All right. So the next topic is the Jets situation. All right. All right, so moving on to our next topic, we're going to be going into the Jets QB situation. I'm sure everyone knows how Zach Wilson has been playing really poorly this year. He's single-handedly lost them games, and I know people can point to his offensive line, but there's also plays he's done that are just on him. They're not really on the line. They're not really on his receivers. It's just bad throws. And as a coach, so Zach Wilson is mad he got benched, and it's a little embarrassing because they put him as the third stringer. They didn't even put him as the second stringer. That's how bad he was playing. As a coach, you got to put your team in the best position to win. And, if you feel like a quarterback is sabotaging you, like Zach Wilson was, he was sabotaging the Jets. I feel bad for Jets fans because he was putting them through hell. All right. So yeah, he gets benched for that, and then it turns out they, Tim Boyle and Trevor Siemian, they're both even worse than Zach Wilson. So the coach calls him back. Hey, we need you. And there's reports that he's hesitant to come back, that he doesn't want to come back, and a lot of fans are on his side. I'm actually on the Jets side with this one. I think he should come back. You can't blame Robert Saleh for benching him because he was playing horrible. In the Bills game, he didn't complete a pass to any of his receivers. He only threw it to he only completed a few passes to his tight ends and his running backs. And yeah,
and he has Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, he has like a decent amount of weapons. I'm not saying they're the best, but he has a Super Bowl caliber defense. The offensive line is pretty horrible, but I mean it's doable. I think there's worse offensive lines out there. So yeah, it's just he's losing them games. You can't be losing games 6-27. It's just sad, man. It's the way he loses games is horrible. Yeah, I'm definitely on Saleh's side. And he's getting paid too. We have to remember he's getting paid. He's not getting paid by the game. He's getting paid by the season. He signed his contract. He's got to play whenever he's called up. That's just how I see it. He's just being really petty. He's being really childish, and I thought he was past that this season. I thought learning from Aaron Rodgers gave him a little bit more maturity, but apparently not. He's still acting up, and if anything, he's a little bit worse because I think last year he was putting up better numbers, and this year it's just been horrible. So yeah, what are your thoughts on the whole Jets QB situation?
Maybe the fans wouldn't feel as bad if they learned that he was making $35 million in his contract for his 4 years from his rookie contract. My God, I didn't realize you get that much as a rookie. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I do not think that there's any support for Zach Wilson. He can be mad. Then don't come back and expect to be fined or lose your salary or even, don't. At that point, too, he's hurting himself because even if the Jets have made it clear you're not going to play for us again after this year, like we're going to go move past, and we don't like our other quarterbacks, so we would like you to play for us even though you're not going to play for us going forward. That's an opportunity for Zach Wilson, if he's serious about playing football, to show the other 31 teams, this is what I can do if you want to give me an opportunity. So I think it's foolish for him to be reluctant, to not want to go out there and prove himself. But that's his point. I think he's only further showing teams and the world that, yeah, the Jets made a mistake drafting me. I'm immature. I mean, seriously.
That's true.
I have a contract. I was doing a terrible job.
Yeah.
I mean, put this in the layman's sense. Say you were working on a factory line, and every truck that came down your assembly line came out rotten, and they said, we're gonna demote you to janitor for a week, and then look, we're ready to put you back on the assembly line, and you say, no, I'm not gonna go back on the line. I mean, really, you have a contract. You don't really have much say in this. So if he wants to play that game and say he's done for the year, that's his decision. I think it's stupid. I think if he was playing with the right mentality, again, you're under contract with this team. There's no other way to end this. They thought they had something better. They want to come back to you. He should be happy because now he's got the opportunity to maybe prove them wrong. That's the mindset you've got to have. Not, I'm bitter because you thought you had something better.
Yeah, it's all entitlement. It's really all entitlement. It's crazy.
I agree with you. I'm with the Jets on this one. When you have a team, especially in today's world, the patience fans and administration have for performance is become increasingly impatient. There's no patience anymore. So you've got to win games, and you can't blame the Jets for trying. You make the point, some of his games you question whose team he's on. That's how bad he's playing. 6 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. It's not acceptable.
And he has a 30 QBR too. Out of 32 quarterbacks in the league, he's 29th in the QBR. He's 30th. Are you kidding me? That's horrible. And
30, by the way, QBR's at a scale of 0 to 100. So
yeah,
that's an F.
That's a fucking F. And he's 27th in passing yards.
Yeah.
And his last game against the Bills, where he got embarrassed, he threw the ball 15 times, completed 7 passes. He had 81 yards. He threw an interception. He got sacked 5 times, and his QBR was a 57. So, yeah, I don't.
57.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Generous.
It was horrible, and his QBR was actually a 3. It was a 3.6.
Oh, I was gonna say, how's that a 57?
Yeah, no, I was looking at his rating, but his QBR is actually a 3.6,
ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, so
you could put Taysom Hill out there, just running the ball. His QBR would be higher.
And it sucks, man, because the Jets really did mess up that pick, and it might have cost them. It might have cost them a deep playoff run this year, because if they would have hit on that and got like a decent quarterback, or even went out and got one before the trade deadline, because they have the defense for it. They have a top 3 passing defense with Sauce Gardner and those.
They beat the Eagles and the Bills.
No, yeah.
I mean, and I'm sure they've beaten some other teams, but
Let me check.
what I don't understand is why they didn't draft a quarterback somewhere in this year's draft.
No, yeah,
Like
man.
there were some in the third and fourth round that would have been great to draft because Aaron Rodgers, even though having him, you've only got 1 or 2 years with Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
So
Max.
why not go get? Come on, they could not have known whether or not Zach Wilson was still. They were. We don't know. He might still be the guy. Come on,
That was
you got to
horrible.
know after 2 years that he's not it. They needed to draft another person, and they didn't prepare for Aaron Rodgers getting hurt, which is stupid because the man's got a 50-50 chance of not finishing a full season.
No, especially at
So
his age too. So
I know he's never been the most durable guy. So this is why the Jets have not won a Super Bowl since Joe Namath in Super Bowl III
oh wow.
because the franchise is poorly run
Yeah.
and they didn't prepare for they didn't have these backup plans, and the fact that they're having to turn to Trevor Simeon
Mm-hmm.
and whatever that other guy's name is, they could have gotten somebody in the draft that's better than those guys.
Or even traded for a guy like maybe Trey Lance, because the Niners didn't want him. I bet
Yeah.
if you would have sent them Zach Wilson and like a sixth, they would have took that in a heartbeat for Trey Lance. And I think Trey Lance would be better like in this situation because he has the defense. He just needs to do his job. Zach Wilson can't even do
He
that.
might be. Zach Wilson is just oof.
Yeah, I don't. I think after this year, it's fair to say he doesn't get another starting job ever, unless the team is just down bad. Um,
Well, yeah, if somebody gets hurt, he's never going to be like week one starting
yeah, no,
quarterback.
those days are over. Those
Yeah,
they're long gone.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and then let me just type up the next topic. Kansas City struggles. And then at the end too, I know you're more into college than I am. We could talk about how Florida didn't make the college playoffs.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I'll get your
yeah.
take on that, like whether you think it was right.
I wanted to see if you wanted to do a quick topic just on the playoff selection.
Yeah, that's fine. Hold up, Kansas City
Okay.
struggles. All right, so now we're moving on to the Chiefs struggles. So yeah, man, on defense they're doing pretty good for themselves because no one was. Personally, I wasn't expecting their defense to be this good, and they've stepped up big time. It's just the offense that's having a hard time. Uh, so what the Chiefs did going into this season, they let Juju Smith-Schuster go, and they drafted Sky Moore. I think he was a second rounder, if I'm not mistaken. But they were probably expecting Sky Moore to step up, but the Chiefs don't have any number ones, and they don't have any. They're full of load. They're loaded with number twos, but none of them are stepping up. Rashid Rice is not. They're just not taking the top off the defense, and it sucks for Mahomes because it's one thing to not be super talented and run amazing routes and be super fast and all that, but it's another thing to drop balls. You can't drop balls at that level, especially on how close these Chiefs games are.
Yeah,
It's hurting Mahomes, man, and it's making him
yeah.
look bad. Um, it's really jeopardizing their Super Bowl, admirations and all that. Because I'm questioning whether they even because they're gonna make playoffs, of course, but
Right.
are they gonna get first rounded? Wait, no, are they? Are no, they don't have the first seed. Are they gonna get first rounded? Are they gonna get second rounded? Mahomes, we've seen Mahomes before, like take a group of guys like last year and kind of carry them and just work with it.
Hmm.
But they had Juju last year. They had, I think they have Tony now, but Tony they don't really get him involved. Um, Kelsey is getting older. It seems like with that whole Taylor Swift stuff, he kind of just like stopped worrying about football. He was more into like behind the scenes stuff with her, and I don't really like that. Like if I was Mahomes, I'd be like, hey man, that's cool, you're with her, but you got to focus on this. We're trying to win a Super Bowl. Your career is like almost over. You're gonna have time for that because he's like 34, he's 35. He's on his way out. Mahomes still has a legacy to build. He's still pretty young. He's fairly young. He's like, what, 26, 27? So I would have pulled Kelsey in, tell him, like, don't worry about that stuff. I think that was kind of annoying and that kind of lingered on. Um,
I think it's when she's not there that he doesn't play well.
oh,
I
okay.
feel like I feel like every time she's at the game, they always
Uh
show
huh.
her, and then he gets a touchdown, and then it's like,
Hmm.
he's showing off.
No, yeah,
When
but I think
when she's not there, he's depressed.
I think his numbers this year, they're kind of down too. If you've been looking at him, he does. Yeah, he's having a down year. And it's
But that's by his standards.
yeah by his standards, yeah.
Yeah.
But that offense doesn't have too much. I mean, they
No,
have
they don't.
Pacheco, who's solid on the floor, but they need to pass the ball. That's their bread and butter. You have the best quarterback in the league. So don't say, oh, Mahomes is throwing uncatchable balls.
No.
He's inaccurate. He has no arm. You can't say that because it's
No.
Mahomes. Like this guy's gonna put the ball where it needs to be, and these receivers need to catch it. And they're screwing Mahomes over, and they're making him look bad. So
Yeah.
I feel bad for Mahomes. Hopefully next year, they draft like a real number one, or they trade for one. I know George Pickens is unhappy in Pittsburgh. I would like it if they went and got him, and they can get him pretty easily because Steelers are trying to get rid of him. They don't want
That
him.
would be really the Steelers don't want him.
Yeah, because I don't know if you've been up with their what's going on with them, but George Pickens is kind of immature. Like he gets mad when he doesn't get the ball.
I feel like it'd be frustrating for him because they might have one of the worst passing offenses in the league. Yeah, so that would be big for the Chiefs. They should investigate that situation.
I would do it if I was their GM. I would go look
Yeah.
at George Pickens, and don't even stop there. Like go get more guys because their core is not good. It's really rough, and they kind of expect Mahomes like, oh, we're paying you all this money, we got the defense looking right, so we're not really gonna help you on with your options. Like just make it work. It's kind of like with Aaron Rodgers. They got him Devontae Adams, and Mahomes has his Devontae Adams, which is Kelsey. But other than that, they didn't help him with anything else in Green Bay. It was just Devontae and just work with that. So they're kind of doing that to Mahomes in a way with all the money he's making. And honestly, like you gotta get him at least one guy, guy that goes down there. But yeah, man, it's looking rough. I still have Kansas City making a deep run, but it's gonna be tough with these receivers. Hopefully they step it up.
Yeah, I think they'll figure it out. I agreed with a lot of what you said. We can't start saying Mahomes is falling off a cliff. Like let's be
Yeah.
real. The Chiefs lead the league in drops, or unless something wild happened these last 2 weeks since I've last checked.
Hmm.
They're up there. We know for sure they're up there in drops, and I think they'll figure it out. They've only lost. They're 8-4. They've had a tough schedule as of late. I think they're going to put the pieces together. I trust that Andy Reid and Mahomes will figure it out. The receivers might be in their head a little bit right now with some of the drops that can happen in any sport. You start failing, maybe some self-doubt creeps in. So I think they'll get that situation under control. The thing you have to like if you're Kansas City is the fact that their defense is finally somewhat legit. So you've got that to go back on. I think they'll figure something out. The thing that interests me about this debate is people forever said Tom Brady I've heard marginal wide receiver talent. You can't tell me that Tom Brady's wide receiving core was this bad.
No, yeah, he had Randy Moss. He had
Randy
Wes
Moss,
Welker.
Edelman. There was always somebody.
Yeah.
And Amendola and Hogan even at the end.
And
with
Gronk
Julian
too.
Edelman when they were winning those late ones.
Mhm.
And then you have Gronk at tight end. So we just say Gronk and Kelsey cancel each other out. But yeah, you've got somebody in the slot, or who those guys, Welker, Edelman, they were very reliable.
Mhm.
Right now, if you're Mahomes, not only are you having to make these split-second decisions, but now you're also thinking in the back of your head, man, if I throw the ball to this guy, is he going to catch it? You know, like the fact that you're going to have to think about that now because nobody can catch the ball. So I think the Chiefs are in trouble in that regard.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, the trading deadline has passed, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it has. Yeah.
So that's over and done. So they can't really acquire anybody now to solve that need, but I think that they'll figure it out. Deep playoff run may be questionable. but I think they'll be okay. I don't know if Super Bowl is in line for them though this year.
It's looking rough, man. I
Yeah.
actually believe that they'll probably draft a receiver in the first round next year because
Yeah.
you lead the league in
Probably.
drops. You gotta get new guys to catch the ball. The defense.
Especially because I think the draft is pretty mediocre in a lot of the key positions,
Mhm.
and so yeah, I would expect they might trade up. They might even trade up to try and get one of the good receivers because there are some good ones in this class.
You think Marvin Harrison Jr. is gonna go to the NFL or is he gonna stay at his school?
Oh no, he's gone.
He's going because I don't know if you've heard the reports, but they're saying like, oh, he's saying like, oh, I don't know yet because he wants to win a championship for his college and
Oh
he's
well, if that I don't know how big of a motivation that is, and
yeah.
I also don't know the NIL check he's getting.
But they're saying that the NIL check he's getting is kind of similar to an NFL rookie contract.
That then and see that would be the only reason he'd stay
Yeah,
in. That's new about this NIL era is it used to be I'm gonna go
yeah,
to the pros as soon as I can. You
yeah.
saw it in college basketball and in NFL. I'm gonna go as soon as I can
To
to
get
get the
money.
money.
Yeah.
But if these schools and I've seen it in college basketball, which used to be one and done,
Hmm.
the schools will pay them so much where it's like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll stay another year. So if that ends up being the case, he goes there. There's still though some other really talented receivers in this draft class coming up. And I would agree with you that I expect the Chiefs to try and hit on one of those guys. And there's some big ones, like some big receivers, and they need a true wideout
Hmm.
because they're kind of in the situation that as a Fresno State fan, those of you who don't really know our football program, we've got a bunch of little receivers, and the Chiefs are kind of like that. They've got a bunch of
Yeah.
these speedy little receivers, and right now they're having troubles bringing the ball down. So look for them to bring a reliable wideout target into their team in the draft for sure.
No, yeah. Hopefully they fix that issue soon. I'm a big fan of Mahomes, and the Chiefs are kind of sabotaging him with like this horrible receiving core.
Yeah.
So hopefully they get it fixed. Um, yeah, man, they could have won that Eagles game, but that guy dropped it at the end, so it's pretty
Yeah.
crazy. Let me. There was something else I was gonna ask you. Um, damn. Let me see. I'll just start changing the title, but let me see if I'll remember. Can you see like everything, or you can just see me?
I can just see you. I can't see the thing you're typing.
But can you see like the stuff at the top and like Pound Town Pod and all that?
No.
No, oh, okay, it's fine. All right, so moving on to our next topic. We're going to be going over should the Raiders keep Antonio Pierce as their head coach and should Mark Davis give him a long-term deal. So personally, so far, I feel like Antonio Pierce has been doing a good job, filling in on the spot for Josh McDaniels getting fired. You could tell when he came in, it was a breath of fresh air. He's a locker room guy, the players love him. Josh Jacobs loves him. And the Raiders, they actually have a lot of guys that have short tempers that, like, if you talk to them the wrong way, they're going to get mad. I know Max Crosby's like that. He doesn't take shit from anyone. Devontae, he's not afraid to voice his frustrations. Josh Jacobs, he's like that. There's a few guys. The rookies aren't going to say anything like Aiden O'Connell. Jimmy G, he went and got Josh McDaniels went and got Jimmy G because he knows he's not going to say anything. He's not going to argue with them. He's gonna do what McDaniels tells him to do, and he's not going to make a big deal out of it. So for Antonio Pierce, it's kind of tough because he beat some kind of like mid teams, and people are kind of hyping him up about that. I don't know if you've looked at who they beat. They beat the Jets, and we've been over Zach Wilson and how horrible he is. He beat the Giants, and that was kind of a gimme because the Giants are horrible this year. And he lost to the Dolphins, which we were all expecting. He lost to the Chiefs, and that was probably his worst game so far because the play calling, the decisions, where he could have went for it on fourth down. I don't agree with that. So with him, this is what you're getting with Antonio Pierce. You're getting a locker room guy that most people respect, if not everyone respects. He's on the player side, if anything. If a player has something that they have an issue with, they're going to go to him. With McDaniels, you couldn't do that. A lot of players said that he would keep players out of like his social circle. Like he would talk to him like it was a business and not like it was a team. Because he's a coach, you know. He has to be able to kind of mesh with these guys and rub them the right way. He rubbed them all.
McDaniels
Yeah, no,
cannot do that.
he did not do that whatsoever. Devontae was asking for the ball, and it was clear that he wanted it. They still gave it to Jacobs, like 20 times a game, and it was bullshit. So, yeah. With Antonio Pierce, though, like I have my doubts. A lot of Raider Nation is like, oh, yeah, don't make the same mistake that you did with Rich Bisaccia. Don't let another gem go. But, I mean, here's what I would do with him. I would give him a 1-year deal and see if he'll do it again with a fresh season. Let him see what he can do. A 1-year deal. Don't give him a 10-year deal like John Gruden. Don't give him a 6-year deal like Josh McDaniels, because he keeps losing. Mark Davis keeps losing money with all these deals. Give him a 1-year deal, see what he can do, and if he's rough, then just move on from him. I would also like if they brought in. We were talking about this earlier. That offensive coordinator from the Lions. I think his name's Ben Carson. Let me look it up. I can get it real quick. Let me see. Ben Johnson. Okay, yeah. I like Ben Johnson. I like what he's done with the Lions offense. And I feel like that's what the Raiders need. They need more of an offensive-minded coach more than anything, especially in that division. Like, you got to score points against Mahomes and Justin Herbert. I don't think he's not really a guru, like a McDaniel, like a Kyle Shanahan. He's more of like a player's guy, and this is what the Raiders needed, because the whole season they had their issues with the head coach. So yeah, but for the future, I would want a different coach. I don't think he's gonna take us to a Super Bowl. So far, maybe that opinion will change how he finishes out the season. But so far, I'd rather have someone else. We were talking about Jim Harbaugh, too, from Michigan. If he decides to leave, I see you shaking.
He's not going to go to Vegas. I keep hearing people say that. I can't imagine him coaching in Vegas.
Yeah, we'll see, because I know when McDaniels was getting hired, like his name was brought up a lot. And I think he said, oh, if they offer me the job, I'll take it. He actually said that back then. So we'll see if they offer it. We'll see what Mark Davis does. I know Mark Davis, like, that whole situation with firing McDaniels, a lot of the Raider legends had to tell him and text him, because they text him, they talk. I know Charles Woodson was like in his ear, like, hey, a lot of players are unhappy with this guy. You need to get rid of him as soon as possible. And Mark Davis kind of.
I like how they let this guy come in, mess up the whole organization, get rid of the franchise. All-time franchise quarterback Derek Carr.
Yeah.
And then a couple months later, they realized, well, okay, maybe he wasn't the guy. Let's fire him. Are you kidding me? I mean, that's what was terrible.
No,
he was so bad, and they stuck with him.
I would have. No, yeah, I would have liked to see them run it back with Devontae and Carr, because.
Yeah.
That would have
with a sane head coach.
Yeah, with like a different head coach for sure. I just feel like. It's like we've been saying to fire him at the beginning of the season, and he's doing it now where it's kind of too late, and they have to win out to even make playoffs, and they have to get lucky. Like, some teams have to lose, some teams have to win. So
and now you're stuck with Aiden O'Connell. Not that I'm trying to like say he's terrible, but
he's a rookie.
He's not ready yet.
He's a rookie.
Still low raw.
Yeah, he's a rookie. There's growing pains. Like, I feel like if we had a veteran quarterback, we would have won that Dolphins game, because I don't know if you saw that game. He had 3 chances at the end, 3 like drives in the fourth quarter to go down and score.
Couldn't do it.
Yeah, he couldn't do it. And a veteran quarterback would have got that. Even Dak, I think he would have got that. Got down the field. But yeah, I think give him a 1-year deal, see what he can do with like the team. And if it ends rough, if he's not really meant for the job, then I would move on for sure. But don't just let him go. Don't just cut him, because it's gonna look bad if he brings in another guy that no one wants, and that coach does horrible. Then it's gonna be like, oh, you should have kept Antonio Pierce. You look like a jackass. So give him a one. That's the safest thing he can do. 1 year deal. You know, and they're kind of they're a little bit in the rebuilding stage, a little bit, because they need a quarterback. And they need to fix that defense, because the offense is all right, but the defense is horrible. And it's a little overrated this year, because I think they're like top 16 in pass defense. And Max Crosby's actually having a good year, but it looks like he's hurt and he might not even finish the season. He might have to get surgery, so they'll shut him down.
That would be tough.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But what do you think about this Antonio Pierce situation?
I'm gonna say the Raiders need to learn from their mistakes from the Rich Bisaccia situation. You cannot stop trying to bring in a Ferrari for your head coach. You don't need an offensive guru. You don't need the hottest new toy in town, especially when you've got a lot of money shoved in these Gruden contracts and McDaniels contracts because you fired these guys. It's almost like you have my notes over here. We've been agreeing a lot. I like a 1 year deal.
Mm-hmm.
Let the players, I think, it's underestimated what you need from a head coach. And I think people seem to think, no, you don't want someone close with the players. You want someone who's going to get on them and chew them up. In Vegas, with all these personalities, I think you need someone like him. I think someone like him adds value. They've got a lot of strong personalities on that team. They're in Sin City.
Yeah.
I mean, I think don't underestimate the value he can have for this team. I think they really need to give him a chance. For the last how many, decades, they've been a struggling team. Let the guy have a chance. I think it was not right for them to, especially when Bisaccia made the playoffs.
Yeah, man, that was a crazy call.
And to say we're gonna move on, like that is classic Raiders. like we have something here that could work, but instead of seeing if it'll continue to work, we're gonna bring in this guy, who's got all this acclaim as being offensive coordinator, and it busted. It cost them more money. Give this guy a chance. Slow it down for once. Stop being impatient. You don't need, like I said, you don't need a big name. You don't need to spend more money and have it fail. Yeah. So I say give this guy a chance. Give him a full season.
At least.
And if you're that unsatisfied with if it's 5-12, okay, maybe you shift gears. But if it's 8-9, is that a bad year for the Raiders?
No, because so far he's 2-2, and the two teams he's lost to are the Dolphins and Chiefs. So you can't blame him, and he's got a rookie quarterback. So.
Yeah. So give that situation a chance to develop. Give him a draft class, and if he goes, 7-10, 8-9, okay.
Yeah.
Then you give him another year, maybe 2 years. See how that goes. But let's be honest, the Raiders for a long time have been, 3 wins, 4 wins, 5 wins. So give the guy a chance. I don't really think it does you any harm. And I think also what interests me the most about Pierce was how quickly he's moved. In 2017, this guy was coaching at a high school.
Yeah, I saw that.
So he's moved up the ranks very fast, which has me wondering, there might be something to this guy. He played, obviously, in the NFL. He was a part of the Giants that won the Super Bowl team, so he was a part of Tom Coughlin. He was under that, so Tom Coughlin runs a tight ship, and he gets the job done, and he's been to a Super Bowl, so he knows
what it takes, what goes into it.
He knows what the locker room of a Super Bowl champion looks like. I think they need to write it out and give him an opportunity, which is something they failed to do for Bisaccia. So I would give him an opportunity of at least a 1 to 2 year contract, and then I'll reevaluate after that.
No, yeah, and I want to bring it up too. That's what they did before hiring John Gruden. We actually brought in, or no, we had Jack Del Rio, and he was coming off a really good season. And instead of firing him, they gave him one more year to see how he did. And I think he ended up. It was a pretty bad season. I think he went like 7 and 10 or whatever, 6-11, and then they hired Gruden. So yeah, that's how you want to go about it. You don't want to make playoffs and then fire the guy that got you to playoffs.
Right.
That's like that's the worst thing you can do. Maybe they thought he was unqualified. Maybe they thought, oh, the Raiders were kind of lucky.
I don't care what you think if he's unqualified and he hasn't been a head coach before. If you can do it, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if this Antonio Pierce, really, even if he doesn't win another game to finish the season, I mean, they've got a tough schedule: Vikings, Chargers, Chiefs, Colts, Broncos.
Yeah,
Like that's very tough. The thing that I would be, especially if Max Crosby goes down, they're really the life of their defense.
No, they're cooked. They're cooked if he goes down.
Yeah. So, but even if they lose the rest of the games, I wouldn't be mad because honestly, at this point, I'm trying to get the best pick.
Oh yeah,
possible.
I think they're right around 10 or 12 in that area.
Yeah. So if you can start getting into the top 5, 6, 7 area, and you can get yourself. Maybe this is the first time for me not really watching the Raiders because Carr left. I don't know what their biggest needs still are, but maybe something on the offensive line or something to back
corners,
up the defense.
Man. They need some corners, yeah, because our corners are horrible. Linebackers are pretty rough. They should have drafted Jalen Carter. Instead, they drafted Tyree Wilson, and he's not having a good season. He barely does anything. So
that's bad.
I don't know if you heard. Oh, that brings up a good point. I don't know if you heard about how the Raiders were the Dave Ziegler, the former GM for the Raiders, he got fired. He wanted to draft. He wanted to trade up and draft C.J. Stroud, and McDaniels was like, "No, I don't like Stroud. I'm gonna go with Jimmy G, and we're gonna draft Tyree Wilson." Did you hear about that story?
I didn't, but it wouldn't shock me. McDaniels is bad.
No, yeah. That's kind of the conversation that was going on around draft time. And oh my God, look at how good C.J. Stroud is. He was so wrong about C.J. Stroud.
I said I wanted C.J. over Bryce Young. Not that I'm counting out Bryce Young because he's in a terrible situation.
Yeah, he is. It's horrible.
But C.J. Stroud, I'm telling you, it was that Georgia game. I don't know. Those of you that may or may not have watched that Georgia game, that was a legit performance by C.J.
No, at the time I wanted him too. I just anyone but Jimmy G, but I like C.J. Stroud, and it sucks because it looks like he's the future of the Texans. He's having a good season. He doesn't even he has some weapons, but they're not like overpowered like weapons. Like he's getting the job done with like random dudes. Imagine if he had a Devontae Adams, what he would do with him, or like a Hunter Renfrow or Jacoby Myers, like our offense. He would have fit.
They got a good thing going in Houston.
Yeah, like he's made do with what they have, and they don't have the best weapons. I feel like going into the season, no one was like, "Oh, look at Houston's receivers," but they've showed up and they're doing good.
Nico Collins is coming on strong, man.
No, yeah, he's working with like Robert Woods and like Tank Dell got hurt, so we'll see how he is. Yeah. But yeah, man.
And that's another thing I'd like to point out about McDaniels, offensive genius. He turned Hunter Renfrow from a 1,000-yard receiver and a Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
To a bust, like a bum.
Doesn't even use him.
3 catches in the whole season. Like I didn't know what happened to Hunter Renfrow.
They just all those balls that were going to Hunter Renfrow, they're going to Jacoby Myers, or they're going to Michael Mayer barely. He drafted him like in the second round, barely uses him, gives him like 3 catches a game. Not really a focal point in the offense. Like they could have used that pick on the defense, like a corner or something, got a good corner, and just went with like a random tight end that we have on our depth chart. But they used Michael Mayer, and I guess he's cool. Like it's cool to have a good tight end, but there's other things of need that he could use that on.
Especially if you're not going to use him.
Yeah, he barely uses them. Like look at his I don't know if you could pull up his numbers. His numbers are absolutely like mediocre for a second round pick. If you're in that's horrible.
Yeah, I've got him here. He's got 22 catches for 251 yards, 1 touchdown.
Yeah, that's horrible.
20.9 yards a game.
Yeah, you could have had like Jimmy Graham from the Saints. You could have just got him to do that. You could have got like anyone to do that, but
the Saints are underusing Jimmy Graham. I swear, like they didn't play him like the whole game. he comes in the red zone, catches a great touchdown pass. I'm like,
Hmm.
God, they need to use him more. But yeah, no, that it's a new era for the Raiders, and with McDaniels gone, that's got to feel good. So we'll see.
I think
We'll
that's
see how
like
they.
that's the best decision he's made in like the past like what 10 years at least. No, like 5 years I would say that's the best decision.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but yeah, man, it took all that just to get him out. Like Raider legends like Marcus Allen, Charles Woodson, everyone that goes to Raider games, like the Raider alumni, they had to like talk to him in private, and say like, "Hey, this guy, you got to get rid of him." Like, yeah. So I'm glad he's gone, but he's done the damage already. So we just have to salvage the season, see what we can do, and yeah. As for Antonio Pierce, he looks cool so far. Like you said, he rubs these guys the right way, and with the Raiders, that's what you got to do, especially in that city.
yeah.
I feel like with Las Vegas, like since moving there, he kind of Mark Davis just kind of panics a lot. He wants to make the right move right now. He doesn't want to take any
He's
time.
trying to do big
Yeah,
because the city is big. You
this-
don't need that. You need a team that wins. That's what you need.
no, yeah, he's not really trying to trust the process at all. He's kind
Build
of
something up.
yeah. He's like I want the Patriots Super Bowls like how they were winning. I want that culture here. So I'm gonna hire this guy that comes from a winning culture, but he's actually horrible.
Yeah.
So he's got to slow it down. They're not going anywhere. They're there for a while, and yeah, he's got to clean up his mistakes for sure. And then if there's you got anything else to add on that?
Well said.
All right, cool. And then we'll go on to that college football playoff controversy with Florida, right? It was Florida.
Florida State.
Yeah, Florida State. All right, so I didn't watch too many Florida State games, to be honest, and I'm not too much into college football, but I do know that these guys went undefeated, and they had a really good season. But there's some other factors that go into it for them missing the playoffs. Number one, you're probably gonna bring this up. They lost their quarterback. I forgot his name.
Yeah.
So from a business perspective, the college football playoff people are like, what's gonna get us the most ratings? What are people going to tune into? Are they going to tune into a Michigan ass whooping against this team that lost their quarterback? And I guess this quarterback was really good. Like he kept him in a lot of games.
He was. He's very good.
Yeah, and they lost him. He's out for the season. So personally, it's just the smartest thing. Yeah, I would rather watch Alabama and Michigan play than a team. Yeah, you went undefeated, but you lost the guy that was keeping you in, and then. I've heard that that Florida State schedule was like ranked 55th hardest in the nation, and
I had 64th.
oh yeah, 64th. It was So they didn't really face like a lot of like the super tough opponents, and Alabama did. I think they were 5th in the nation. So yeah, I kind of don't blame them. I'd rather see Alabama in the playoff than Florida State. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so for those of you who follow my individual Instagram page, on Saturday night after the conference championships, I posted my top 4. It was exactly as the committee ended up selecting. I had Michigan 1, Washington 2, Texas 3, and Alabama 4. I think it's the right thing to do. I think a couple years ago the committee they put in an undefeated Cincinnati team, which was a group of 5 school at the time, because they were undefeated. And it's like, then they get blown out.
Yeah.
And it's like,
oh,
you can go undefeated. That's great. But like you said, the quarterback is hurt. I heard some arguments not only from the school, but from the quarterback himself. He made a statement saying this team has won games without him. They've proven their resiliency without him. That's great, but we're talking about the playoff.
Have they beat a school without him as good as Michigan? I don't know.
No.
Okay, then those wins are irrelevant then.
Yeah. So, the bigger point is exactly we're going to be watching Michigan, And how could you make the case, if you're Florida State, if you're this quarterback, that Florida State is better than Alabama, who just beat the two-time defending national
Yep.
champion?
I forgot that.
Like, if you win that game, you're in. If
Mhm.
you knock off the big dog, the reigning champ, you're in the playoffs.
And I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
Georgia would have beat Florida State, even with their quarterback. They probably would have beat them. Wait, did they play each other?
We don't get to say we think or what knows because
Yeah.
Florida State and Georgia are going to be playing each other in a bowl.
Oh, they are.
And
Right. That's right.
when Georgia rolls over them and sends them packing back to Florida State,
Yeah.
uh, yeah,
Or maybe it's going to be another one of those situations, like you said, like the Niners had something to prove. Maybe Florida State has something to prove. We're going to try our ass off and win this game because you guys didn't keep us in the playoff.
and that should be their mindset. Just because they're not in the playoff, that doesn't mean that's a big bowl game. Especially for recruiting, if you say we finished an undefeated season
Yeah.
and at the end of it we won our bowl game versus Georgia,
Mhm.
I don't care who sits out for Georgia. No one's going to pay attention to that. It's we won our bowl game versus Georgia. We beat Georgia. We finished undefeated.
Yeah.
They might even get a national championship per some sources. Like, obviously, it won't be the national champion.
Yeah.
But there are certain media
Trophy.
outlets that crown national champions.
Mhm.
They might even get a national championship in that way. Like, I know one year there was, I think, UCF.
Yeah, I heard about that. 2017.
Yeah,
UCF.
finished undefeated, and they claimed the national championship
Yeah.
from some sources. So you can still do that, and this is still a big game for them. So it's not the end of the world. But in terms of the playoff,
They had no
It's-
shot, man. Like,
it's frustrating, and it's sad to take away from a team that goes undefeated. But you've got Michigan, hands down, undefeated. They beat Ohio State 3 straight years. They're in the playoff.
mhm.
We can't argue that. Number 2, we've got Washington, undefeated. They had like the second or fourth strength of schedule.
Mhm.
You're in if you go undefeated with that. Then you've got Texas. They win the Big 12. They should have beaten Oklahoma, and they just killed themselves. That was their one loss.
Yeah.
So you beat Alabama at Alabama. You win the rest of your games other than a loss to Oklahoma. You win your conference.
Mhm.
You're in. Your quarterback's still healthy. You're in. And then Alabama beats Georgia in the SEC championship. There's no room for a Florida State, and I think the committee got it right. And we get to see a rematch from last year's bowl when Washington and Texas played,
Mhm.
and Michigan and Alabama. That's always an exciting matchup. So those will be good matchups. Saban, Harbaugh, two great coaches.
Oh, yeah.
I'm excited for these matchups, and I think it might be one of the best playoffs in recent memory. Like, for years, I've always said we don't need 4 teams because there's not. This might be the first year where I've said I can't wait for the expanded playoff.
Oh, next year, right? 12 team?
Yeah, next year might be too many. We probably don't need 12, but it's going to be a good 14 playoff.
Oh, you like that? Because I was going to ask you about that. Like, what you thought about the 12 playoff team format?
I think it's a little big, and I think it's definitely showing itself to capitalism, to money. Like, they're going to make more money. Like,
Yeah.
that's why they're doing it.
Uh-huh.
Because it makes them more money. I think if you did like a 6-team where the 1 and 2 get a bye and then you have the other 4, that would have been fine.
Yeah. So the playoffs next year, are they going to start at this time, or is it going to be like moved?
I don't know. It might have to start earlier
Yeah.
because like the first playoff game now isn't until New Year's.
Oh, really? I didn't.
Yeah.
Damn, I forgot about that.
So like there will probably be games in the 12-team playoff earlier in December.
Oh,
Which
yeah.
we don't-
Okay.
yeah.
That makes more sense because they have all this time right now to just get it out the way.
These are just going to be like all the other bowls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I don't watch too much college football, but like doing this internship and like kind of, this is like the most college football I've ever watched in my life this season, and it's pretty cool. Like I like how like the atmosphere and the students,
great.
the student sections. Yeah, it's really cool.
The bands, the fans are so into it. Yeah, you got to go like no, not Fresno State fans. They do a good job. But when you go like, oh my God, we went when I went to Oregon, crazy. I've heard people that I've known people who've gone to SEC games
Hmm.
and they say it's out of this world.
Damn.
And like Michigan, I knew one of my uncle went to a Michigan game one year when it sold out. It was crazy. So if you ever have an opportunity to go to like one of the big schools
Hmm.
games, it's cool to. I mean, it's not like the NFL. Like I don't know if you've been to NFL games,
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
uh, but it's different. Like people at NFL games, there's your fans, and then there's people doing every which thing, and you go to like these college games, everybody's focused, everybody's making noise,
Yeah.
everybody's wearing the same color shirt. I mean, it's different. And the stadium's 100,000 people. Oh, it's crazy. But yeah, so if you ever get that opportunity, I would look into it.
No, yeah, for sure. I like the atmosphere, and it's different from the NFL because like you could tell the students actually care. And when I
Oh
go
yeah,
to NFL games, like it's more for like the business, and people just get drunk.
it's like social kind
It's
of.
like it's like more social. Like for the school, you actually like can feel the community,
Yeah,
and that's one thing about Fresno State. Like there's actually a community. Like the whole town feels it. You know,
yeah,
like oh, there's a game. It's game week. It's game day. So that's pretty cool. That's what I like
yeah,
about Fresno State.
yeah,
Um,
for sure.
Yeah. Was there anything else? Any other topics you wanted to talk about real quick?
No, that does it. That was a good one.
All right then. All right. Cool. So yeah, that was a good talk. I'm gonna end the podcast right now. We have one guy in here. He's just watching us, but I'm gonna
Yeah,
post this all on YouTube and
sounds
kind.
good.
I'm gonna cut it up to like put it on TikTok